Ladies and gentlemen, what follows is a newly discovered account from the private papers of Dr. John H. Watson, a case never before set to print, yet recorded with the same fidelity, restraint, and admiration with which he chronicled the singular intellect of his friend, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. You are invited into the quiet rooms of Baker Street, into the measured cadence of Victorian London, and into a mystery whispered as a curse, a throne said to ruin those who sit upon it. It was upon an evening of uncommon stillness in the autumn of 1893 that I first heard Holmes speak of the throne. The fire burned low in the grate at our lodgings in Baker Street, casting long, wavering shadows upon the Persian slipper and the cluttered mantel where chemical retorts jostled with violin strings and half-read monographs. Holmes reclined upon the sofa in his habitual attitude of contemplative indolence, his long fingers steepled, his eyes half-lidded yet unmistakably alert. I sat opposite him with the Times, though I confess my attention wandered more often to my companion than to the print. "You are restless, Watson," Holmes observed suddenly, without shifting his gaze. I had thought myself quite still. "Physically, yes. Mentally, you are fidgeting like a novice chess player faced with a master's opening. You have read the same paragraph no fewer than 4 times. I folded the newspaper with a sigh. Then I shall not insult you further by pretending otherwise. The silence presses upon one. We have had no client these 3 days. Holmes smiled faintly. London never remains quiet for long. He had scarcely finished the sentence when the sound of wheels upon the cobblestones rose from below, followed by the abrupt halt of a carriage. A moment later, Mrs. Hudson's footsteps hurried along the corridor, and she ushered in a visitor whose very bearing suggested both rank and distress. The gentleman was tall, spare, and immaculately dressed in morning black. His hair, though still dark, was streaked with premature gray, and his expression bore that peculiar mixture of pride and anxiety so often found in those accustomed to command. "My name," he said, after a stiff bow, "is Sir Alistair Pembroke of Ashcombe Hall." Holmes rose and inclined his head. "Pray be seated, Sir Alistair. You have come concerning the throne." The baronet started as though struck. "I see," he murmured. "Your reputation does not exaggerate." Sir Alistair accepted the offered chair, though he did so reluctantly, as if furniture itself might betray him. "For generations," he began, "the Pembroke family has possessed an heirloom known as the Throne of Ashcombe. It is an oak chair of considerable antiquity, carved in the reign of Charles II, upon which every head of our house has sat during the formal assumption of the title." Holmes nodded, "And misfortune has followed." "Death," Sir Alistair said quietly, "or madness, or ruin. My father collapsed upon it within the year of inheriting Ashcombe. His father before him took his own life. 3 generations earlier, the heir was declared unfit and confined. You yourself have not sat upon it," I ventured. "No," he replied sharply, "nor shall I. But my son—" His voice faltered. "My son comes of age in a fortnight. The ceremony cannot be delayed without scandal." Holmes leaned forward now, interest sharpening his features. "You believe the throne cursed?" "I know it to be so." "Curses," said Holmes mildly, "are often no more than the footprints of human agency." Sir Alistair looked at him with a flicker of hope. "Then you will come?" Holmes stood. "We shall leave at once." Ashcombe lay some miles beyond Oxford, a brooding stone edifice surrounded by ancient yews and the heavy silence of inherited wealth. The throne itself occupied a raised alcove in the great hall, its dark oak gleaming dully beneath the chandeliers. At first glance, it appeared unremarkable, high-backed, elaborately carved, and solid enough to endure another century. Holmes circled it slowly, saying nothing. "The accidents occurred swiftly?" he asked at last. "Always within the year," Sir Alistair replied. "Often sooner." "And always upon the legitimate heir?" "Yes." Holmes ran his fingers along the armrest, then bent suddenly to examine the seat. "Watson," he said, "observe." I knelt beside him. The wood bore faint abrasions, as though something had been repeatedly adjusted or removed. "A mechanism," I suggested, "or a cavity." Holmes straightened. "Sir Alistair, who has access to this hall?" "Only the family, the steward, and the house servants." "And who benefits?" Holmes asked softly. "When an heir does not survive." Sir Alistair paled. Over the next 2 days, Holmes immersed himself in the life of Ashcombe. He questioned servants with courteous precision, examined ledgers, and spent long hours alone with the throne. I observed that he paid particular attention to the younger son, Edmund Pembroke, a quiet, watchful man with an air of patient resentment. "He stands to inherit if the elder falls," Holmes remarked to me that evening. "You think him capable of murder?" "I think him capable of waiting," Holmes replied. On the 3rd night, Holmes requested that the throne be moved. There was protest, of course, but Sir Alistair deferred. As the chair was lifted, a small panel slid free from beneath the seat. Inside lay a slender steel spike, blackened at the tip. We gathered in the great hall at Holmes's insistence. Sir Alistair, both sons, the steward, and myself. "The throne," Holmes began calmly, "is not cursed, it is engineered." He held up the spike. This device was fitted beneath the seat. Upon bearing weight, it would rise fractionally, never enough to kill outright, but sufficient to introduce infection, pain, and gradual decline. "Poison?" Edmund gasped. "Septic injury," Holmes corrected. "Slow, insidious, perfect for inspiring legends." He turned to Edmund. "You removed and replaced the spike after each succession. The abrasions upon the wood betray you." Edmund's composure shattered. "I was protecting the estate," he cried. "He was weak, unfit." Holmes's voice remained even. "You were cultivating a myth. A curse absolves the murderer." The authorities were summoned. The throne was burned. Sir Alistair's elder son sat upon a newly fashioned chair 2 weeks later and suffered no ill effects. As for the legend of the cursed throne, it faded, as such things do, into whispered history. When we returned to Baker Street, Holmes resumed his place upon the sofa. "You see, Watson," he said, "human nature is ever more reliable than the supernatural." I could only nod, reflecting once more that beneath every ghost story lies a human hand, and that, in the presence of Sherlock Holmes, even centuries-old curses must yield to reason.